Welcome to You Are Not a Frog, the podcast for GPs, doctors and other professionals in high-stress jobs. Working in today's pressured environment, you may feel like a frog in boiling water. Things have heated up so slowly that you might not have noticed the extra long days becoming the norm. You've got used to feeling constantly busy and often one crisis away from not coping. Let's face it, frogs only have two options: to stay in the pan, be boiled alive, or to hop out and leave. But you are not a frog, and that's where this podcast comes in. You can do more than just hop out or burn out. There are simple changes that you can make which will make a huge difference to your stress levels and help you enjoy life again. I'm your host, Dr Rachel Morris, GP turned executive coach, speaker, specialist in workplace resilience and creator of the Shapes Toolkit training programme. In the podcast, I'll be chatting with friends, colleagues and experts, all who have an interesting take on this stuff, so that together we can take back control and thrive. If you want more resources, including CPD reflection forms for the podcast, then make sure you've signed up to the You Are Not a Frog Collective, and please share these podcasts with anyone who needs them. On with the episode. So it's brilliant to have with me on the podcast today Dr Katherine Hickman. Now, Catherine's a GP, she's a mentor, she's also a tiny habits coach, which is all around behavioural change. Is that right, Katherine?
Yes, and we recorded a podcast before, didn't we? So Tiny Habits was developed by Dr BJ Fogg, Stanford University, and it's all about helping you change by making the behaviour so tiny that you can do even when you're at your most stressed. It's a new way of doing things, and it's certainly been very successful in my life, and lots of my clients and patients, family less so, but work in progress.
That's one of those things, isn't it? Everything we learn seems to be really successful with clients and then not quite so successful with family.
Yeah. I did a recording the other day about tiny habits for couples, so specifically for when you're in lockdown with your other half.
Oh my word, right, I can feel another podcast coming up. I think I need a bit of that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. The podcast episode you did has been really popular, and I've lost count of the amount of people that say to me, oh yeah, what I do now is a squeegee breath, just like that lovely doctor said on your podcast.
Yes, love it.
So for those of you who haven't heard the episode, a squeegee breath is something that you do in between patients?
Yeah. So after I wash my hands, I will do one squeegee breath, which is a deep mindfulness breath. And it comes from actually Dr. Dike Drummond, who is the physician burnout coach in the US. And I mean, to be honest, I didn't even know what a squeegee was, but it's the thing that you wipe down the froth when you're cleaning windows. So it's clearing the fog from the one patient, making it nice and clear intentions, ready for the next patient. That's good.
Yeah,
nice.
It works nicely.
Yeah.
Well, someone I spoke to recently tells me he does 5 press-ups between each patient.
Hero.
What a hero! But the patient's coming in and he's sort of sweating, panting, and don't know what. Plus the fact I'm not sure about getting down on the floor of most consulting rooms.
No. Yeah, that's my excuse for not doing any exercise.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah. So we thought today we would get on, and obviously we're still in the middle of the corona crisis. We are most of us working at home, apart from people who are going out and seeing patients on the front line. And I think for all of us, actually, whether we are out or whether we're seeing patients from home, are having a problem with, I think, phones, social media and news. And I know this is something that Caroline Walker was talking about on the previous episodes of the podcast. And we're just finding it very hard to limit the amount of time we're spending either checking news stories, and I know my husband has been sort of obsessively checking news stories, or for some of us it might be obsessively checking Facebook feeds and just seeing what's going on out there, and others of us it's sort of WhatsApp groups. I mean, WhatsApp has gone absolutely mental for me. I don't know about you, Katherine.
Oh my goodness, I've literally doubled the number of groups that I'm unbelievable. Yeah.
And it's actually getting to the point where it's really hard because someone posts something useful and then you can't find it because there's like another 100 comments.
Yeah. Or wondering which group you've posted the latest GIF in, whether you're sharing it again with the same group or, oh man.
Yeah. But I mean, these things keep us sane, right, don't they? Because I think the first thing to say is that there's nothing wrong with any of this. No. And it's providing a really great way of connecting. And what I've found recently, which has been a revelation, although I guess a bit really, I must be really dense, but my husband showed me how to, if you're in a group, you can actually call 4 people at once on WhatsApp. That's brilliant,
that's right.
isn't it?
I know, it's nice. Yeah.
Really nice. I've actually spoken more to my family in the last week, my extended family, than have done in the last 6 months. And it's been really nice. And it's been, you know, the connection with friends on Zoom, and we're doing happy hour, we're doing pub quizzes, we're doing all those sorts of things.
Connecting with people that I've not been in touch with for years. So yeah, there are absolute positives of social media, definitely. But it's when you fall down that rabbit hole, and suddenly an hour and a half later, you've come upstairs to get something, and you're down Facebook.
Yeah. So either it's Facebook silly videos or articles, or it's Facebook, you read something that absolutely scares you. I did that the other night. There was a post by I think a doctor who's working in ITU, and it was a really stark post, and it really, really unsettled me. And it was just before I went to bed. I'm not saying the post was wrong at all, but I read it at the wrong time. And my mind was whirring. And so with Caroline, we very much talked about limiting news, limiting social media, and trying to sort of focus on the stuff that's helpful. And have you found yourself on your phone a lot more recently, or have you got this under control, Catherine?
I absolutely have found myself, which is frustrating, because I mean, I'm a self-confessed phone addict. I know I am, and I sort of had it under control actually by doing a lot of behavioural change things, but of course then COVID-19 has come along, and railroaded some of those plans. So I'm mindful that I suppose I'm mindful that I know how to stop it, but equally, sometimes it's very, very difficult to. And equally, I have been famous. It becomes it's an addiction. It's an addiction about looking at these morbid stories and then feeling the need to share them. I kind of think, well, I've read this. I want other people to read this. I don't want this, and I'm waking up early, which is something I've not done since a period of burnout. Sort of waking up at 2:00 in the morning, not specifically thinking about coronavirus, but I know it's there. When I'm trying to read a book at the moment, and I keep thinking I'm reading an article on coronavirus, and I can't understand why this book, which is about the Troubles in Ireland, isn't talking about coronavirus. Because it's not about coronavirus. Everything I'm watching, I keep thinking that it's to do with coronavirus. It's everywhere. I know it's early days, and the novelty in inverted commas will wear off. But I think it's consuming us, isn't it?
And I've just definitely found myself checking my phone a lot more for stuff, and it's not necessarily coronavirus related. I think I've just got into that habit, and I think it's probably worth saying it's tricky as well when a lot of your livelihood is based around social media as well, because I know you're a coach, you do stuff online, and you moderate a really big Facebook group as well. And I I'm on Twitter and I have an online community, so actually there's quite a lot of checking all of that. So that's all well and good, but it's all the other stuff as well. When you put that on top of all the stuff that is part of your job, part of your life. I mean, so I've now got 2 WhatsApp groups for work. So one for the clinicians, one for everybody. Right. So one for everybody is very much about morale boosting and funny gifts, and the clinician one is about logistics and working from home and rotas and scrubs and all the other stuff. So we thought. We wanted to do an episode on managing our own response with social media and the news and things like that. And actually, Catherine and I were talking the other day, and I thought, well, actually, why don't we just put out a live Tiny Habits coaching session where Catherine could coach me and I sort of bare my soul to everyone. So I'm not sure how this is going to go, but actually this might be helpful to other people who are experiencing the same sort of issue. So is that all right, Catherine?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I wonder whether it's worth me just doing literally a 1-minute overview of what a tiny habit is.
That would be really helpful.
I do a whole day workshop on this, but a tiny habit is basically where it's got 3 components. So the first one is an anchor or a prompt. So it's something that you are already doing in your life, whether it be getting up in the morning, flushing the toilet, closing the dishwasher, opening the car door, closing the door, walking in the house, hanging up the dog lead, something that is absolutely concrete and automatic in your life, something that you don't have to think about before you do. So you take your anchor, and then you take a big behavior that you want to do. So in this case, it would be to reduce social media, but it could be to meditate, to do yoga, to exercise. So you take that big behavior and you scale it right back to something tiny. So yeah, go on. Were you going to say something?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay, so for example, wanting to drink 2 pints of water a day, you would scale that back to something as tiny as filling a pint glass of water, taking 1 sip. Wanting to eat more carrots in the day, you would scale it back to getting the bag of carrots out, or taking 1 bite of a carrot, or wanting to do, I don't know, Joe Wicks exercise. Instead of committing to the 30 minutes, it would be opening up Joe Wicks exercise video, or turning on the kettle and doing 1 squat. So you match the behavior with an anchor. So you align them. So after I do the anchor, I will do the tiny behavior. And then the thing that's fundamental to tiny habits is you celebrate. So Dr. Fogg talks about feeling shine inside. So obviously for Brits, this is difficult to comprehend. Public displays.
Lots of high fives.
Celebration, all this, which is absolutely not necessary, and it's got to be absolutely true to you. And feeling shine inside can just a smile, or just feeling good about yourself. So like this morning, there's this exercise called the Hindu press up, something horrific press up thing that I can't do, but I've started doing I did 1 last week, I did 2 this morning, and after each one I just smiled, and then I went down onto my knees and finished it off. But I felt really good, and when I smiled, I felt good, and I know that I'll be able to do 3 tomorrow, and I'm just going to gradually build it up. So it's about making behavior change really manageable, and not relying on motivation, because we know that motivation goes like that. Yeah. So it's about not taking that out of the equation, getting your anchor that's already fixed, attaching your tiny behavior to it, and celebrating your success, because emotions create habits. Good and bad.
I was just about to say, what's the neuroscience of that? So when you're celebrating, what happens in your brain?
As it's releasing dopamine. It's saying this is good, this is something that I want to do, and reinforcing that. But of course, as we know, having a drag on a cigarette releases dopamine, and it's exactly the same process. And it's very similar with Facebook, Instagram. So Facebook, you've got that anchor, you open up, you take your picture, you upload it, and people start to like it. And every time you see a like, it's releasing that dopamine. This feels good. This feels good. It's really easy to do. It's a tiny behavior. And you do it more and more and more, and suddenly you're down that Instagram rabbit hole.
So that's why it's so addictive, isn't it? That's interesting about social media. And there's a really good Simon Sinek video, which I'll try and find and post. I don't know if you've seen it. It's him basically saying, what are we doing to our children? We are teaching them to be addicted. It's quite a scary thing, and it's so true. But anyway, back to the tiny habits. So it's the dopamine of the celebration that's just reinforcing the habit, so you're more likely to do it next time.
Yeah. And so that's why it's such a great thing to do if you're trying to do more habit, a positive behavior, because it's telling your brain that this is something that you want to do. So as I say, I'm doing Hindu push-ups now.
I'm sorry, just got to stop here. What is a Hindu push-up?
So I can't really. So it's where you go on all fours and your head, and then you bend right down and then curve all the way up again like that, and then you come back like that. I can't really. I'm absolutely not going to demonstrate it.
We want you to take a video and stick it on Twitter for us, but then we're not going to check it because we will have cured ourselves of our social media.
Absolutely, yes.
Right. Okay. So there's lots of neuroscience behind all this, presumably.
Yes. Yeah. And lots of research that he's done as well, and things like reducing stress levels in nurses, specifically in the hospital in America. Lots of great evidence out there. I mean, he's a scientist at the end of the day. He's collecting data points, and he's working out what works and what doesn't work. And certainly what I suggest to people before they start to tackle reducing a bad behavior, like reducing their social media use is actually to get used to change and get used to changing, getting some positive habits in your life. So you learn from that success that actually this is possible, and then you start to tackle the big bad behavior. But actually you've got to give yourself that confidence that you can change.
Okay. So I was just about to say, how does this work when you're trying to stop something rather than trying to start something? Does it work in the same way?
Yeah, very similar. So as I say, so what I would start with, so for example, so the main one I work with patients is tends to be about losing weight. So, patients who are overweight and, they've struggled with this all their life. By starting to tackle this massive behavior first, it can be completely overwhelming. And actually, what I want them to do is actually to start to feel good about themselves, which very often they don't feel good about themselves at all. So I just start with two very simple habits, and the ones that BJ Fogg, certainly the first one, the Maui habit in the morning. It's his most successful habit. It's the one that becomes most automatic for people. And it's just after I get out of bed and put 2 feet on the floor, I will say, today is going to be a great day. Awesome. Or whatever you want to do.
Awesome.
Okay. So you're starting the day off with something really positive, and hopefully that almost creates a bit of a domino effect throughout the day. And then I say to them at night, because very often at night it's a difficult time when you're trying to switch off. After your head hits the pillow, I will say one thing that I'm grateful for, and then smile. Yeah. So you're starting the day with something positive, ending the day with something positive. And then I say to patients, and then it's absolutely fine to catastrophize for the next hour about all the awful things in your life, but you have actually started off with something positive, and being grateful for one thing might turn into two, might turn into three. And it might just sort of start to calm your brain.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Right, so that all makes perfect sense. So come on, let's sort me out.
So what the trouble is, very often that we start with the big habit, the general habit, the big I want to stop using social media, which sounds nice and crisp and smart and all that, but actually, this is I've got my ball of wool here, because actually I want you to imagine that this general habit is actually made up of loads of different specific habits, all entangled in one big beautiful Aldi ball of wool for £4. I saw that. I was like, I'll have that. The middle aisle of Aldi.
Yes.
So you want to take your big habits, you want to put that in the middle. My general habit is I want to stop using social media. And then you want to think about all the specific habits that are leading to that. So for example, scrolling on your phone at night, waking up, picking your phone up, getting onto social media, scrolling while you're doing telephone triage, which obviously I would never do.
Never.
Your phone during patients. If you've got the sat nav on, just having a quick look, if it buzzes, having a quick look to see it, WhatsApp, using it while you're talking to your kids or not talking to your kids, just having a quick look when you're cooking. I mean, it's, seeing your phone. So suddenly you've got all these different specific habits that lead to that one big general habit. So you don't start by tackling the big thing. Just as for example, for weight loss, I want to reduce the amount of junk food that I eat. You don't start with the whole junk food. You think about all the specific times that you are actually eating that junk food, sitting, eating junk food while watching telly, snacking when you come in from work, cake at lunchtime, all these specific habits. So then you take all those habits, again, feeling completely overwhelmed, and you start with the one that is a little piece of coloured wool, and you just pull it out and it's gone. You start with the easiest one. You start with the one that you think, actually, you know what? I can absolutely get rid of that one overnight. And there will be some. So when I was saying that, were there things coming up to you?
There were. So something that was coming up was when you said, look at it while I'm cooking. So often I think the thing I struggle with is that our house now, we haven't got any like normal radios. I can't put the radio on. I have to put my phone on and then get it through the speaker. And, so what do I have to use my phone for? And recipes are all on my phone. So I have the phone in the kitchen so that I can listen to the radio and listen to the news and stuff like that. But I often, you go to put the news on and then there's a text or the thing, and then you look and then suddenly, well, I'll just check. So I think an easy thing would be to, when I'm in my kitchen cooking or with my family or whatever, I do not check my phone. I do not look at my phone. I do not use it there.
But equally, as you said, everything sort of is you have to use your phone to put the radio on, or it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, but then there's something very simple. I have just nabbed, we had given our digital radio away, but then we've now received it back, so I could just plug that in and use that. So actually that's a tiny habit. Just listen to and I have to pull out my dresser to get the plug in. So that's all that's stopping me, is getting someone to move the dresser to plug it in. So that's what I could do, is use my digital radio in the kitchen instead. Yeah,
and what about recipes?
That's harder. I do have recipe books I tend to use. It's just, so it's less recipes. It's more radio and music.
Yeah. Okay. But swapping. So that would be about sort of swapping a habit.
So the other time is, sometimes if I'm just got a break, I will just pick up my phone and just check for no reason whatsoever. So that is something that could stop.
Yep. So that's it, and it's about thinking about the prompt. What's the prompt that is making me pick up that phone? What's the feeling? Is it, and it's a bit like I talk to patients about stopping smoking. What's the prompt that makes you reach for that cigarette? And sometimes it's anxiety, and actually working through the anxiety can lead to reducing the number of cigarettes. But it's similar. It's like it's an addiction, isn't it? Because we're addicted to that dopamine rush. And sometimes it's not a dopamine rush, but very often it is. And you see that funny video, or loads of people have laughed at my post, or liked my post, or loved my post, and it feels good. So it's about thinking about what that prompt is, and working with the prompt. So can you remove the prompt?
Probably not. I think the prompt for me is when it's just at natural hiatuses. So we've eaten dinner, we've loaded the dishwasher, and I'm just making myself a cup of tea to go upstairs, and I'll probably just have a look at my phone.
Yeah. So I wondered, so the prompt might be the cup of tea. It's a bit like, for me, like the prompt cup of tea, something sweet, but it's the I don't want to give up cup of tea, but very often it's the what's prompting me to pick, and it's kind of like the comforting, the warmth of the cup of tea, and I'll just snuggle down with a bit of Facebook.
For me, I think it's when I pick up my phone to go upstairs. So it's this, I'm about to go upstairs, so I pick up our sitting room's on the second floor, that's why. So I pick up my phone to go to the sitting room, and that's probably when with my cup of tea, and that's when I'll check it.
And this is in the evening?
Yeah.
So other than social media and your phone, what do you need your phone for in your living room?
Music again.
Okay.
But I don't really, because quite often we're just watching something on telly. So I don't often need music. I think I just have it with me often. So at the moment, I'm often contacting relatives, in the evening. I'm WhatsApping everybody. So often it's because I need to do a call.
Yeah. Okay. But there is something there about physically removing that prompt that's going to trigger you to look at it. So one thing that I've done is I've tried to, I think there's one thing, I'm not quite sure what it is, that still buzzes on my phone. But other than that, there's no, the ring, yes. But nobody ever phones me now, do they? It's all by message.
And that's a really good point, actually, because I do teach teach about productivity, and I have removed all my notifications off my phone, emails, except for WhatsApp. Interestingly, WhatsApp is still notifying me, and my email is still on my front page, although I've removed the little notifications from it. And I still have, LinkedIn has a little notification number on it. So actually one thing would be just to go through and make sure I have definitely turned off absolutely all of my notifications, and actually put them on, not on my home screen, because I often go to my phone and I look at my diary on my phone, because I hate my diary on my computer. So I do need to check my diary to see what's happening next. I've got a brain like a sieve. My diary's on the same front screen as my LinkedIn, which is now telling me I've got 8 notifications, and WhatsApp.
Press me, press me, press me, press me.
Yeah, it is. That's what it's. Yeah, I just got to go in there and see what it is.
Yeah. So I have definitely changed my home screen, and that's one step. So there's nothing on there that is social media. There are no emails. I've even got a bright yellow cleaning app that really needs to get removed because that doesn't get looked at all. But it's got like my calendar, and it's all the things, all the good things. It's got a 5-minute gratitude journal, meditation app. It's got my Kindle. It's got podcasts. So the idea being is that when I open it up, that I'm hopefully drawn to one of those rather than.
That's you're seeing the stuff that you want to do.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah. It's not perfect because I know where I can find. So I've now got. So my latest iteration is to put Facebook, Twitter, and WhatsApp into a folder and labeled it evil.
That's okay.
It's still there.
Evil folder.
And what I do so that my it's gone. So it's like it's there's my evil.
Yeah.
And I move it around, so I make it more difficult for me to find it.
Yeah,
this is about changing your environment to make it harder.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to embed a new good habit, you make it easier to do the habit. So I probably talked about it in the last podcast, the biscuit. Oh no, that's about making it harder actually. No, it's about, so for example, opening up the fridge and it's just an array of fruit and nice looking fruit and vegetables rather than yesterday's leftover crumble. It's appetizing. You want to eat them. Yeah. But this is about making the environment harder to access.
Yes.
The evil
file. Okay, cool. So far I'm writing all these tips down. Yeah. Sort out my home screen and stick it all into an evil file or whatever file you want, and actually move that file around and not have it on your home screen on a different thing, and turn off all notifications.
Yes,
because I was going to say I thought I had turned them off.
Yeah,
some of them are still pinging.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah,
I think there's obviously so they've obviously made it. There's obviously some app that have made it almost impossible to turn it off. But even like some newspaper apps, they will notify you when Boris Johnson is going live or something. It's like I don't need that. I don't need that in my life.
I don't need to know that. No.
I don't need to know that. I mean, I know some people talk, and I did try it, but immediately stopped it. Making your phone black and white, so it doesn't stand out like the Facebook or the WhatsApp or the little red notifications. But then all your photographs go black and white, and you've got to. Yeah.
So how would I change it? Sometimes I find myself picking up my phone and just clicking, even though I have definitely turned off my email notifications, but I go in there and I just check through all my accounts anyway. And I've ended up doing that more times in a day than I can count, which is bizarre.
So I haven't done this, but I've listened to something the other day, and her so it was to do with anxiety, and she was given a clicker to click every time she felt anxious, and it got to the end of the day she had over 1,000 clicks, just one of those like handheld clicker. So I wonder whether there's something about just clicking how many times, whether it's clicking or. I know, again, something that I did for Facebook, you can see how long you've been on Facebook. And it was 7 hours. And 7 hours a week. Oh my God.
Because that's like almost a whole day's work, isn't it?
Yeah, I always go. I just need, if I had 8 days in a week, my life would be fine. There you go. I've got 8 days.
Yeah.
So again, another prompt that I put in. So I've set a timer on Facebook, so it comes up. So you have used 10 minutes of Facebook. So that's a prompt. And I mean, 10 minutes is actually it's nothing really, but actually it's just a reminder that and that seems to that I tell you what that the 7 hour thing worked amazingly before COVID. Slipped back a bit.
How did you put this timer then on Facebook to tell you how long?
It's in the settings. Yeah, so settings in Facebook. So just a little, and it's a very nice. It's not a very it's a nice alert. It's little. It's a little bird tweeting. Another good, so again, I'm not sure whether I told this story last time, but a couple of years ago, I came home from work and I was 45 minutes early. So my whole family were like, how are you back so early? And I said, I think it's because I left my phone at home.
Okay.
So it's just a hunch. It was a hunch. But the next day I left my phone in my pocket at the other side of the room. And again, so clearly I was having an additional 45 minutes in my day of checking my phone. So then when it got to the end of the day, I would then have to do my letters and my tasks and all the things that I had left, which made me get home late. So one really useful app that I have, it's called the Forest app. So my prompt is, so after I sit down at my desk, this is at work, I will open up the Forest app and set it for 90 minutes. So it works on the principle that you start with a little sapling, which I quite like because it very much fits with the tiny habits. It's about, planting seed in the right place and it will grow without further coaxing. So it's a little sapling, you set the app and it grows into a tree. And if you try and get into your phone, it's like, are you sure you want to access your phone? Because if you do, you will die. I'm like, yes, I need to get into WhatsApp. Oh, and then it has this little,
you killed your tree,
little brown tree. So so that's worked really well for me.
Okay, so that's good. So there's all these things. So let's make the environment more difficult to access your phone. Another thing I find myself doing is, so I'll be working on something. So I've been working on a webinar this morning, and then I'll just turn to my phone and start scrolling through it. And I would love to replace that. Obviously, I needed a break. I probably reached, I don't know, 45 minutes and my brain was going, hang on a sec, just, but phone was not what it needs. So what can I do to change that?
So again, one of my favorite techniques is using the Pomodoro Technique, which is, I presume it comes from the tomato. It's like the tomato timer. So you set the timer for 25 minutes, and that's your Pomodoro, and you are only allowed to focus on one thing and nothing else. So because when I'm at work, I'll do a task, then I'll go into results, then I'll be into letters, then I'll be onto Google, then I'll be onto my emails, and then on my phone. And I have achieved absolutely
zero, completely unproductive.
Zero productivity. So one thing I found super useful is setting that 25-minute timer and just focusing on tasks, and you're not allowed to do anything else. So no phone, no email, focus. And then at the end of 25 minutes, and I think there is a Pomodoro app you can use, then you set the timer for 5 minutes, have 5-minute break, and that can be 5 minutes of Facebook, but it's dangerous. But
also, you probably don't move, do you? You don't move out of your environment if you're just sat on your phone.
No, and certainly a lot of people I coach, they really struggle with that. So they'll do the first 25 minutes, but then they either they can't stop because they're in the flow, or they set the timer for 5 minutes and just turn it off. So I for the ones where they can't get out the flow, I say, well, look, when the alarm goes off at 25 minutes, just do one thing. So after the alarm goes off, I will take one stretch and then get back and do it. Or it's something about that, really managing that 5 minutes. So it's planning for that 5 minutes. So somebody I'm coaching at the moment we had to go for 7 minutes because it took us 7 minutes to make that cup of tea. But that's all so treat the 5 minutes as seriously as you treat the 25 minutes, rather than so 5 minutes of Facebook is great if you can, but it's easy to just, as I say, because you're addicted, that dopamine is like boom boom firing off, and you just ignore that alarm. So really focus on that 5 minutes, I think, and then you go back to do 25 minutes either on the same task or something else, 5-minute break, and then a third Pomodoro, and then you have a longer break, say 25 minutes.
And it's interesting. So I've been talking and do some wellbeing and some companies recently, and talking to them about 5-minute breaks, when everyone is really, really, really busy, and saying actually the best thing to do in those 5-minute breaks is not to do more sort of knowledge-based stuff, but to do something that absolutely switches your brain off. So go for a walk, make a cup of tea, listen to some banging music, or even playing Tetris. And that's different to Facebook. Facebook, you're engaging, aren't you? You're engaging with written content, or video, or I guess I'd probably say silly videos are probably better than actually reading articles.
Yeah, just something mindless.
Yeah,
that just completely blah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay.
Definitely.
So how am I going to stop just being in the habit of checking my emails all the time?
I don't know, Rachel.
Coach me.
So what is the okay? So when you're designing for a new habit, there are 5 things. We talk about this at the ability chain. You need 5 things in place for a behavior to happen. And if not every single one of them is there, then it won't happen. One part of the chain is broken. So for me, this whole 7-minute app thing that I was talking about, and the Hindu pusher. So I had the time to do it. It was a free app. I had the mental effort to do it. I had the routine. It was 7 minutes. I could easily slip that into my routine in the morning. But I didn't have the physical effort. I'd not done proper exercise for a long time. So that was, although it seems easy, and I say to patients, just do 7-minute app, it's easy. But actually 7 minutes of hard exercise in the morning when my routine was really difficult. So it's the same with when you're trying to break a habit. You need to think, well, okay, at the moment, everything is in place. I've got the time to do it. I've got the money. I've got the physical effort to click on my email. I've got the mental effort to read the emails, and I can easily slip it into my routine because my phone is attached to me at all times. So what you need to do is you need to try and break one of those chains. So whether it is actually, filling your time with is there something else that you could be doing that you would much rather be doing than emailing? It's about listening to podcasts, listening to books, doing some yoga, which is kind of what we're talking about before we came on air, wasn't it? Meditation, all these things that we say we haven't got time to do. And me saying that I need an extra day in my week, and then I find that I'm spending 7 hours on Facebook. So it is about we've got the time because we're using the time to look at emails and social media, but it's how else can I fill my time? And then I would say, well, design a tiny habit for something like yoga or meditation or reading or whatever that thing is that you want to do. Like my daughter was saying earlier, I really want to learn the guitar and I really want to learn how to do the Rubik's Cube in this COVID holiday. I was like, well, fine, just open up a YouTube video. And she's like, I can do a tiny habit, mummy. Yes, do a tiny habit, girl.
Okay, I've got something. I'm in my office, just over here, is my keyboard, is my piano. I love music. I don't think I've played the piano for 6 months. And I could, instead of in my 5-minute break, just jumping on emails and checking through, it would take me 3 minutes. Well, I could go and play my piano for 3 minutes. So I'd like to do that. So
brilliant. I'd start even smaller. I would say, it's electric keyboard, is it? Yeah. So
it's like a one of those pianos that is actually electric piano.
Yeah. So after I stand up, I will turn on the piano.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. So that's what I need to do. I need to. And what will my anchor be then? So it's just next to you, is it? It's literally there. Yes.
Well, you could say something like after I think about checking my emails, I will get up and turn my piano on.
Okay.
Or after I reach over to pick my phone up, I will stand up and turn my piano on.
Okay. So we start with literally that small. I'm literally going to turn it on.
Tiny, because this is a big thing. You've got a big thing, a big one of those.
Yeah.
But you've also got to introduce a new habit, which is hard, but tiny habits makes it really easy. Okay. And then just by that process of switching it on and celebrating, so you're firing off that dopamine. This is something that I love to do. What am I doing? Why am I spending my time on email that's bringing me misery when I could be playing the piano, which has given me so much joy? It's something that I love to do.
Yeah.
So it's looking at the time element, definitely. Money, I was thinking about this earlier. Money, I don't know how you would make that hard. I mean, you could do something like, I don't know, maybe like really limiting your data or something. If you were really that desperate, really limit your data. So when you go over it, you then have to top it up. My old plan, I did used to quite regularly run out of data, and that worked because I never used to pay extra. I just used to
So then you just couldn't check stuff. Oh, that's clever.
Check it. But that's I would say that's pretty extreme.
Yeah. I did hear of something where if you're trying to take up a new habit, and like say running or something like that, you could set up this thing where you had to do it every day. If not, you set up that you give them your credit card number. For every day you don't do it, they donate a set amount of money to Trump's re-election fund.
That's brilliant. Wow.
That would make you get out and go for a run, wouldn't it?
Oh my God, yes.
That's for people that are really serious about penalising themselves if they don't do something.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Yeah, I love it.
Or maybe if you do something, if you give up smoking and you have the cigarette, then that, that's a tenner to Trump.
Yeah,
like that.
That's great. I love it. So the other one is physical effort. So, I mean, again, you can go extremes. You can buy boxes that you can put your phone in and it locks down.
You know what? If I just put this somewhere else,
totally.
Literally not next to me, over on that chair over there, that would stop. That would stop the just. Oh,
exactly. So that for me, that was putting in my jacket across the room.
Yeah.
Because it's not, and I'll put it in my bag now, or I'll put it the other side of the room with Forest app turned on, and it's like or just leaving it upstairs, just complete. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I think I've got a load of stuff that I can do. So I'm going to sort out my home screen, get an evil folder for my turn off all my notifications. I'm going to get the Forest app, put a timer on Facebook, use the Pomodoro technique, and when I get the urge to check my emails, I need to switch off, I'm actually going to stand up, go and switch my piano on and celebrate that I've turned it on. And if I feel like it, I will go and play it.
Yeah, because as I say, plant that seed in the right place and it will grow on its own without further coaxing. So just that one tiny behaviour, the idea is that it grows into something bigger, and soon you'll be playing sonatas again.
Brilliant. So that's really helpful. What I do want to touch on before we finish is what we're not saying is that social media is bad or that the news is bad, because actually these things are pretty necessary. I mean, this is how we communicate these days. What would you suggest about, when we're tempted, and we're also not saying that looking at difficult stories and reading difficult stuff and seeing difficult news is bad, because we need to be updated. So how would you be advising people they should manage that? Would you suggest they just did it at a particular time of day or put a time limit on?
Again, I don't want to be too specific, because I suppose that kind of goes against the grain of, but I think I certainly think about avoiding it at night, definitely. And if you were to, it's almost a bit like, for improving your sleep, it's about, limiting caffeine after midday. Okay. You could treat it like that. Not going on your news website after 3 o'clock or something. But again, it's what's going to stop you doing it? It's about having so at 3 o'clock, it's maybe putting the phone somewhere that it's out of reach.
And what would you say to someone who would say, well, you know what, there are all these people that are having an absolutely dreadful time, people are losing people, my colleagues are out there, I need to be up to date what's happening, I feel like I'm betraying them if I'm not reading about it. What would you say to people?
And I agree, but I think it's just about keeping it in manageable chunks, but also filling your life with other things that you do enjoy, and actually you then maybe realize that you don't need so much once you've actually started playing the piano or doing yoga, especially at the moment when we do have more time on our hands, just because we can't go out. So actually just fill, it's sort of filling it with one and reducing the other, and realizing that actually you can probably get the right amount of feeling that you're supporting your colleagues and empathy in a much shorter amount of time, rather than it encroaching, onto. It's almost like the 80-20, isn't it? You want to flip it, so it's 80% good, 20% reading horror stories, and flip it the other way.
Yeah. So it's not that we don't want to support people out there, whatever. It's just that actually we need to pay attention to that stuff that's going to be helpful for us at the moment. And because we need to be as fit and as healthy as we can possibly be, so we can get out there and help other people.
Yes, absolutely. Great.
So Katherine, do you have 5 three top tips. Three top tips for anybody who's wanting to get a handle on their phone, their social media use. What would your three?
Yes, so I would focus on creating new habits. So new habits, things that you're going to be able to introduce into your life quickly, and it's very much around things that you want to do, not feel that you should do.
Yeah.
We're going to design for stopping a habit, and you're going to imagine that ball of wool. Imagine it all, and some of those will be completely knotted and tangled, and other bits will just be a little bit of coloured wool that just needs to be pulled out. So always focus on the easiest thing first. And the third one, look at changing your environment. So how can you make it harder to access that social media? So by removing the prompt or avoiding the prompt, or harder to do but ignoring the prompt.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you so much. That has been enormously helpful for me. I'll let you know how I'm getting on. And if anyone else wants to sort of join me in doing this, then you can always join the Shapes Collective Facebook group, where I will commit to posting every day in there about how I'm doing. Now, I've just realised what I've said there. I'm going to commit to posting in social media how I'm getting on not doing social media. But hey, we can live with these sort of dualisms, can't we? So, Katherine, if anyone wants to get hold of you, how can they contact you?
So I work with Caroline Walker as part of the Joyful Doctors, and also I'm a Tiny Habits coach as well. Best way to get in touch, and I will put the links in the show notes.
Put the links in the show notes. Brilliant.
Yep.
So we're going to hear lots from Katherine again, because you've piqued my interest now in how to avoid killing your other half while you're at home. Was that the title of your webinar?
It was just Tiny Habits for couples.
Okay.
Couples during coronavirus.
Okay.
It's interesting. And what was interesting is all about how it doesn't have to be both of you changing to get together. And actually, if one of you is changing, it becomes ideally a bit of a ripple effect. So
that's right. We're going to get you back really soon to talk about that. So thank you very much. Thanks for listening, everyone, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, then please share it with your friends and colleagues. Please subscribe to my You Are Not a Frog email list and subscribe to the podcast. And if you have enjoyed it, then please leave me a rating wherever you listen to your podcasts. So keep well, everyone. You're doing a great job. You got this.